This is Super Yacht News with Usmanov.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to San Remo Marina. Just thought, seeing as we were here, we would film it here in the marina. So we're going to go straight into our first bit of news, and actually it's about Yacht Nord. Yacht Nord has been spotted in Seychelles again. The 142 meter or 465 foot super yacht is owned by Alexei Mordashov, who's under sanctions by the EU, the UK and the US. Now, his yacht has been hiding out in the Maldives and the Seychelles ever since she left Vladivostok in Russia. Now, at the beginning of the war, the vessel went to Vladivostok and stayed there for a number of months, maybe over 6 months, and then it left Vladivostok and went to Hong Kong and then on to the Seychelles. It was heading to South Africa supposedly and disappeared in the Indian Ocean. Anyway, we've just spotted it again through one of our subscribers, and it was in Victoria Harbour in the Seychelles. Now, the vessel is still not broadcasting on AIS, and it hasn't done so for over 7 months, which is against the IMO laws. Anyway, we'll move on. Yacht Pi has been seen in Fort William in Scotland. This is about a week old now, actually, because this is the first super yacht news we've done for a week. The 77 meter or 252 foot super yacht was originally named Syzygy 818. Now, this yacht is apparently owned by Howard Schultz, and if you know that name, he is the former CEO of Starbucks. Now, some say he was in search of a good cup of coffee in Scotland. We'll move on. Thanks for the photos from one of our subscribers as well. So we'll move on, and quite a lot of talk of recent on Facebook about Zuckerberg's yacht. Obviously the guy who owns Facebook. A lot of people saying that he is the owner of a super yacht. Now, there are 2 super yachts that people often refer to as his boat, which almost look identical. One of them's blue and one of them's got a grey hull. Apart from that, they look identical, and they are both often mistaken as being his yacht. Now, somebody sent this to me and it said something about Zuckerberg's yacht eating another yacht. Now, the boat in that photograph, I believe that is Yacht Andromeda. Now, that boat is owned by a chap who is a former Russian. And they say that because he renounced his Russian citizenship recently, and he has an Israeli passport, but he lives in the US full-time, I believe. And his name is Yuri Milner. And there's another boat which was until recently called Yacht Ulysses, and it has recently changed name to Multiverse. Now, that boat is also owned by Yuri Milner, so which is quite interesting that he owns 2 yachts that are almost identical. However, the reason why I think people think that one of these boats belongs to Mark Zuckerberg is because Milner, apart from being a Dr. Evil impersonator, is an investor in Facebook. And he has probably had Zuckerberg on one or both of the yachts, and he's probably been seen on board, and that's why people think that the yacht belongs to him. But they don't. They both belong to Yuri Milner. So I just wanted to put that out there because people send me stuff a lot about Zuckerberg's boat, so yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. In the last video, we talked about Yacht Anna returning to the EU, and this boat is owned by another Russian called Dmitry Robolev. That was in episode 218, the last video. He has a 110 meter super yacht called Yacht Anna, as I said, and that is recently been seen at an island which he owns in Greece called Skorpios. The island was previously owned by Aristotle Onassis. I said in that video that along with that super yacht, he also owns some racing yachts because he's a keen racer, and he has a custom built carbon fiber racing yacht. And that had also fled out of Europe after the beginning of the war, but that's back in Barcelona. And in actual fact, the yacht is actually called Skorpios after the island. And it was seen in Barcelona, as you can see in this photograph, which was sent in by a subscriber. It was seen last year in Barcelona. We did some checking, and apparently that boat is still there in Barcelona. It should be noted, Dmitry Robolev is not on any sanctions lists. Often in the comments, you'll see comments from people saying that Russians are being singled out just because they're Russian. Well, that's clearly not the case, because Dmitry Robolev is a Russian billionaire, who has done business in Russia, and he is not on the sanctions list. He's a yacht owner, but he's not on any sanctions lists, and he hasn't been since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. So it's not just because he's Russian, there's other factors that are going into it as well. Okay, so we'll move on. And this is about Alfa Nero. I know some people are getting fed up with this story, but we have to follow it until it is done. Now, according to the OFAC website, this is the US website, the US government website, should I say, the sanctions placed against the yacht Alfa Nero appear to have actually been lifted. Now, we read a statement from the president of Antigua in the last video, or in a couple of videos, where he said that the sanctions have been lifted, but on the OFAC website, it's still listed Alfa Nero as being blocked property. However, in a search today, we checked and we found that it is actually been removed. Andrei Guryev is still on the list, but the boat Alfa Nero has been removed. So it would appear that bidders for that yacht will no longer need to apply for a special license. Now, the ambassador to the US from Antigua, Ronald Sanders, says that the OFAC has emphasized that the license does not authorize the sale of the vessel to persons who are otherwise blocked by OFAC regulations. Now, regardless of that, that means that anybody now can bid on that yacht. This is what happened with Motor Axioma, and we said that despite the fact that the owner, Dmitry Pompiansky, was on the sanctions list and still is on the sanctions list, it appears that that boat is now back in his possession, and it will be interesting to see what happens with this yacht, because the person who's most likely wanting to buy this yacht is the previous owner, the person who denies that he owns that boat, right? So he's most likely going to be the number one person to want to get his boat back. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. We will obviously keep you informed when we know more about that story and when the boat sells. Now, speaking of Alfa Nero, one other thing, there are 25 ex-crew members from Alfa Nero who are suing for back pay of $2.1 million, according to a lawyer in Antigua. I would expect that once the government of Antigua sells that yacht, they will reimburse those crew for lost earnings. If you are involved in that case, if you're the lawyer from Antigua, or if you are one of the people on that list, it will be very interesting to get information from you, obviously in confidence, but to track that story to make sure that the government does pay all of the outstanding debts once they get the money for the sale. All right, so we'll move on to our last story now, and this is about unlawful raids on Usmanov's yacht. Now, we did follow this last year, and there was a series of raids in Germany on properties owned by the owner of Motor Yacht Dilbar, Alisher Usmanov. Now, this is a story from Reuters, and it says German court deems raids against Russian Uzbek oligarch unlawful. And this is from May 26, and it says a German court has ruled that raids conducted last year at the Bavarian villa of Russian Uzbek Alisher Usmanov and other locations were unlawful, a law firm representing him in a statement on Friday. Now, the firm, which was hired by the Uzbek embassy, said any basis for suspected money laundering by Usmanov does not exist, has never existed, and all search measures of the public prosecutor's office in Frankfurt based on this suspicion were, without exception, unlawful. So that's what they're saying. Now, the court in Frankfurt confirmed that it was handling the case, but gave no details of the decision. So it's just the information is purely coming from the legal team that was hired by the Uzbek embassy on behalf, for Mr. Usmanov. So the court has yet to confirm that that is the case. The Munich prosecutor's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment either. Now, this relates to a search in September when over 250 police officers, including members of the BKA, which is like the German FBI, they searched an apparently abandoned lakeside villa as part of an investigation against Usmanov. And there were further raids conducted on other properties, including the 156-meter yacht, Motor Yacht Dilbar, which is registered to Usmanov's sister. Anyway, the statement from the law firm said that the case against Usmanov was not factually justified, but politically motivated to the exclusion of all else. Well, that's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Now, some people contacted me saying that the court case had proved that the sanctions against Usmanov were deemed illegal. That is not the case, not as far as we can tell from that article. It was just purely the investigation into the money laundering that was mentioned in that article from Reuters. It does not change the fact that he is under sanctions and his boat is blocked property as a result of that. If that changes, of course, we'll let you know. All right, so just a couple more things to talk about before I go. Please be sure to check out our new channel, Super Yacht News channel. You can get all the news that come in these videos, but we break it up into small bite-sized chunks. If you type in @superyacht-news into YouTube, you'll find the channel there. You can also find it from links in the description of this video. And one last thing, be sure to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/esisman. You'll find behind the scenes videos, including the full tender ride around the marina at the Monaco Grand Prix. You'll get to see other exclusive videos not published on YouTube, like the Patron Chat series and the Atlantic Vlog series. And you'll get early access to features advert free, and you'll get to ask questions for Patron only Q&As. All right. If you've got any information about any of the stories or any other stories, please be sure to get in touch. You can do that through the normal fashion. You can get us on the About page of the YouTube channel. You can get us on Instagram, on Facebook Messenger. You can get us on Twitter, and you can also get us on Threema. Be sure to like this video, please. Very important for the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for future notifications. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.